They called her a dreamer long before they called her anything else. On the orbital learning station above the blue world of Orison, a young woman named Lyra carried a polished wooden piano key in her pocket every day. It was the last fragment of an ancient instrument her great-grandmother once played on the old Earth colony ship. Lyra believed music shaped more than moments. She believed it shaped minds. Yet her classmates and instructors insisted that the age of music had passed and that the galaxy had moved beyond such old-world arts. They said humanity needed engineers, navigators, and analysts, not musicians. But Lyra held her dream close. The wider galaxy was a practical place. Human colonies had spread across many systems, encountering friendly and unfriendly species. Ships depended on precision. Trade depended on efficiency. Diplomacy depended on careful strategy. In such an age, Lyra's piano dream seemed small. Her peers mocked the idea that tones and chords could matter in a future measured by quantized data. They laughed when she asked for permission to study sound harmonics as a bridge between cultures. They said she was wasting time. Lyra never argued with them. She only practiced her silent finger patterns on her desk, imagining keys that were no longer their dot. The learning station functioned as a hub for young minds, chosen for advanced interstellar communication training. Lyra excelled in every discipline except the standard diplomatic simulations. She did not follow the expected negotiation algorithms or rhetorical frameworks. Instead, she listened. She listened to breaths, pauses, and tones. She believed that communication was not only about words, but also about the rhythm beneath them. Her instructors called it intuition. They did not understand it, and they did not value it. Still, Lyra learned what they asked of her, but she held on to her way of hearing. Everything changed the day the station received a distress signal from the frontier. A newly contacted species known simply as the Kellen had withdrawn from all dialogue after a series of small misunderstandings. Reports suggested that their council had grown fearful of humans. The misunderstandings came from attempts to translate their language, which was formed of layered tones and harmonic pulses. The usual diplomatic tools could not keep up with the complexity. Every attempt to communicate ended in unintended offense or confusion. Trade ships halted. Border posts grew tense. Commanders worried that fear could turn into hostility. The station director summoned the highest, performing students to analyze the Kellen recordings. Lyra arrived quietly and sat in the back while her peers rushed to decipher meaning in frequency grids and symbolic breakdowns. They treated the Kellen tones like a puzzle to decode. Lyra listened instead. She closed her eyes and let the sounds flow into her mind. She heard something her peers did not. The Kellen language was not built on logic blocks. It was built on emotional resonance. It rose and fell like a living melody, shaped by cultural values and shared history. To understand the Kellen, one needed to feel the music that structured their thoughts. When Lyra raised her hand to speak, the room grew silent. Her peers watched her with faint smirks, waiting for another foolish idea. Lyra asked to replay one sequence. She hummed the underlying pattern she heard. The director frowned at her approach, but he allowed it. When the room heard her gentle hum, something clicked. The analysts realized that her tone matched the Kellen cadence maps. Lyra explained that the sequence was not a warning as they believed. It was a plea for patience. The Kellen were frightened by unfamiliar sonic patterns in human speech. To them, human voices sounded jagged and alarming. Despite her explanation, the director did not fully trust her interpretation. He dismissed the meeting and sent the students back to their tasks. Lyra walked away discouraged but not defeated. She knew the truth of what she heard and believed she could prove it. That night, she went to the unused cultural chamber of the station. There she found an old digital piano stored in a corner. The instrument was dusty, long forgotten but functional. Lyra cleaned the keys and powered it on. The soft glow of its display warmed her heart. She placed her great-grandmother's wooden key on the frame as inspiration. She spent hours mapping the Kellen tonal layers onto piano chords. She played gently at first, trying to build bridges between their harmonic structure and human musical phrasing. The more she practiced, the more the tones made sense. She realized that the Kellen spoke with emotional gradients that humans had once expressed through music before the age of practicality dulled such arts. Lyra refined her composition until she created a melodic message of peace in the Kellen style, shaped to reassure rather than alarm. She recorded the piece and submitted it to the director with a final request. She asked for permission to broadcast her composition toward the Kellen listening posts. The director hesitated. He feared ridicule among the upper council if a simple student pianist attempted diplomacy through music. But the frontier situation was worsening. Reports indicated that the Kellen patrol fleets were beginning defensive formations. With no better solution, and under pressure from other commanders, he reluctantly agreed to allow Lyra 1 test transmission. The message was sent across the quiet dark of space toward the Kellen world. Hours passed. The station hummed with tension. Officers paced the floors. Students waited at their terminals. Lyra sat in a quiet corner, nervous but hopeful. When the Kellen response arrived, the entire station held its breath. The returning signal was not encoded in layered tones as before. Instead, the Kellen responded with a slow harmonic rise that resembled a greeting. Analysts confirmed that the message carried no hostility. The Kellen had understood her music. Word spread quickly. The director summoned Lyra and asked her to create new musical messages to continue the dialogue. Lyra agreed and spent day after day at the old digital piano. She composed bridging pieces that blended human warmth with Kellen emotional phrasing. Each message brought the two cultures closer. Soon the Kellen began sending their own melodic responses, offering fragments of their cultural stories in harmonic form. For the first time, meaningful dialogue emerged. Tension eased. Patrol fleets stood down. Trade routes reopened. Human diplomats, who once dismissed music, now requested Lyra's counsel. They asked her to teach them how to hear the subtleties of Kellen harmonics. Lyra led workshops that helped officers recognize emotional tones within alien communication systems. Her approach spread to other frontier stations. Humans began using music-based resonance mapping as a tool for understanding unfamiliar species. This shift reshaped interstellar diplomacy. Where words failed, sonic empathy succeeded. Despite her success, some still insisted that her approach was unconventional. They warned that it could not solve every conflict. But Lyra never claimed it would. She only believed that understanding often required listening with more than the mind. She believed in listening with the heart. Her story reached Earth, where historians celebrated her method as a revival of ancient human arts in the age of stars. Young students across colonies began studying instruments again, seeking to communicate in ways deeper than speech. When Lyra was invited to the Kellen world for the first in-person cultural exchange, she felt both joy and fear. The Kellen city shimmered in iridescent tones that vibrated through the air like living music. Their council welcomed her with harmonic patterns that felt like warm smiles. Lyra presented a new musical piece she composed specifically for the occasion. The Kellen listened with great attentiveness. Their reply shimmered with gratitude. In that moment, Lyra realized that her dream had become more than personal. It had become a bridge between species. During her stay, Lyra learned the origins of the Kellen harmonic language. Long ago, their world experienced natural disasters that left survivors scattered. Their ancestors learned to communicate through resonance that could travel across damaged landscapes. Over generations, their culture evolved around tones that conveyed trust, fear, hope, and unity. When they first encountered humans, the unfamiliar human speech patterns triggered deep ancestral instincts. Lyra's music soothed those instincts by showing a gentler side of humanity. When she returned to the learning station, she carried new insights and new musical structures. She composed a suite of interwoven themes that represented the bond between humans and Kellen. The piece traveled across the colonies and became a symbol of hope. Humans who once considered music obsolete now gathered in halls to listen. Some cried, some smiled, some felt awakened to something they had forgotten. Music reminded them that progress was not only measured by technology, but also by the depth of connection. As Lyra matured, she continued serving as a diplomat of resonance. Her methods inspired similar projects for communication with other species, whose languages relied on scent, motion, or electromagnetic pulses. Lyra helped design multisensory communication bridges that blended art and science. Humanity grew richer through these exchanges. Where once humans were seen as rigid and unfeeling, now they were known as adaptable and curious. This shift improved relations across many systems. Years passed, and Lyra returned often to the old digital piano that first helped her shape her dream. She maintained it carefully. She taught new students how to listen and how to feel what lay beneath sound. Many came with skepticism. Few left unchanged. They learned that music carried the human story in every note. They learned that pride in human achievement was not arrogance, but recognition of humanity's ability to grow, adapt, and connect. The day Lyra finally stood before the Central Human Council to present her findings. She carried her great-grandmother's wooden piano key in her pocket. She spoke calmly about the importance of emotional resonance and interstellar diplomacy. She explained how fear often arose from misunderstanding and how understanding could arise from shared experience. She spoke of the old Earth composers and how their works still influence the mind. She spoke of the Kellen and how they taught humanity to listen again. The Council granted her full support to establish the first Interstellar Harmonic Institute. The Institute would train ambassadors in the art of resonant communication. Students would learn traditional instruments as well as advanced harmonic mapping tools. They would practice not only speaking, but also listening. Lyra's dream had become a cornerstone of human diplomacy. In the years that followed, the Institute grew into a beacon of hope. Delegations from many species visited to share their communication traditions. Workshops explored everything from rhythmic signaling to color resonance. The Institute helped resolve conflicts without battle and soothe tensions before they escalated. Humanity earned respect for its willingness to understand others. Through creative means, Lyra watched all this unfold with quiet pride. She never forgot the mockery she faced as a student. She did not resent her critics. She simply wished they could have seen what she saw. Her piano dream had never been about proving anyone wrong. It had been about proving that even in the vastness of the galaxy, the simplest human expressions could still shape destinies. One evening, long after her final class of the day, Lyra sat at the piano in a quiet hall. The soft glow of stars filtered through the window. She played a gentle melody that blended human tonal warmth with Kellen harmonic grace. Her fingers moved with steady confidence. She felt the echoes of her journey in every chord. She knew that the galaxy would continue to change, and that future generations would carry her work forward. As she finished her final note, she closed her eyes and smiled. Her piano dream had changed lives. It had changed worlds. And it had reminded humanity that even in the silence between stars, a single human melody could still be heard.